Boone and Crockett Country, presented by Loophole.
Under the North American model of wildlife conservation, sportsmen hunt the surplus of managed game animals, birds and waterfowl. It is a model grounded by the public trust doctrine, a principle used by governments in both Canada and the United States as the authority for protecting and managing certain classes of natural resources for public benefit, including game species. In North America, this system is designed to manage ecosystems to balance human need with that of wildlife and their habitats. The most significant and useful tools available to those responsible for this management are hunters and trappers. In simplest terms, when specific game populations in certain areas grow to exceed desired levels, more hunting and trapping is allowed and encouraged. When these levels fall below this science-based threshold, these activities are diminished until balance is restored. One of the most significant, yet under-publicized examples of this system at work is the Shiras moose. The state of Utah is one of 6 western states that manage Shiras moose as a big game species. Historically, moose were not present in Utah. In 1957, the state reported 57 animals within its borders. Gradually over time, this number has grown, and along with it, the opportunity for a limited sport harvest of moose. Today, moose populations in Utah are at or near 4,000 animals. To meet population management objectives and habitat carrying capacity in 2009, the state allowed for 171 once-in-a-lifetime permits to be allocated to residents and non-resident hunters. This number represents the surplus moose that, if removed from the landscape, will not adversely affect the population, but will address concerns over too many moose degrading their habitat, and that for other species. The business of conservation and wildlife management today is a complex mosaic of state and federal agencies, hunters and non-hunters, independent conservation organizations, and a host of other stakeholders with an interest in environmental quality and recreational opportunity. Conservation organizations such as the Boone and Crockett Club's television partners, the Dallas Safari Club, Wild Sheep Foundation, and Pope and Young Club, each applied their energies to help fund conservation and wildlife-specific projects above and beyond what can be funded by hunting license sales and taxes on sporting equipment. Like all conservation groups, they can only be as effective as the money they raise. Ben Carter is the executive director of the Dallas Safari Club, whose mission, since its inception in 1970, has remained unwavering and unchanged: to conserve wildlife and wilderness lands, to educate youth and the general public, and to promote and protect the rights and interests of hunters worldwide. This organization's biggest fundraiser to advance this mission is their annual convention. In 2009, 31,000 avid sportsmen joined 1,100 exhibitors and donors in attending the Dallas Safari Convention. Through this and prior conventions, this single volunteer-based conservation organization has been able to contribute $2.2 million in just the past 5 years to advance this mission. According to Carter, 40% of these funds have gone toward habitat grants, 30% to youth education and safety programs, and 30% to hunter advocacy. Like others in his position, Carter travels and hunts where he can to see firsthand how different conservation programs are put to work. In Utah, for example, the state has instituted a countermeasure program to address a growing problem: habitat fragmentation. It was through this program that he was able to hunt for a Shiras bull in 2009. Carter obtained this golden ticket as part of the state's Cooperative Wildlife Management Unit program that sets aside a certain number of big game permits as transferable landowner tags. Outfitter and guide Ryan Fouts has worked with 2 landowners enrolled in the CWMU program for the past 14 years. Carter's Moose Tag was one of 3 tags valid across 12,000 acres of deeded land that is part of the Woodruff Creek Unit in northern Utah. As we will learn, cooperative means private land, wildlife, and public hunting.
Boone and Crockett Country is in partnership with the Wild Sheep Foundation, putting and keeping sheep on the mountain. Remington Arms and Ammunition, welcome to Remington Country. And the Dallas Safari Club, promoting conservation and ethical hunting worldwide.
There was a time, not that long ago, when the best of western habitats were void of Shiras moose. Their story is similar to that of other deer species like mule deer, elk, and whitetail that fell victim to the uneducated conquest of wildernesses by western fortune seekers. The difference with moose is that their near extinction came swiftly. Even prior to Western settlement, Shiras moose never occurred in the numbers we commonly associate with other deer species. In fact, 1 animal per 5 square miles was not an uncommon ratio. Settlers favored moose because they were a large creature that was easy to hunt, and each animal represented up to 700 pounds of sweet venison. By the early 1900s, there were few moose left. Fortunately, their complete annihilation was diverted. The taking of moose for food or sport was shut down entirely, and a new conservationist culture began to emerge. Sportsmen accepted sitting out decades of closed hunting seasons in favor of allowing these great animals to recover. During that time, just seeing a moose was cause for celebration. Between 1910 and 1950, the Shiras moose was viewed not as a game animal, but as watchable wildlife, and the natural or unnatural loss of just 1 animal was deemed a tragedy. As populations rebounded and moose began to expand their range, in some instances aided by translocation projects that populated new, suitable habitats, a surplus of moose began to develop by the 1960s. Slowly, limited hunting resumed in those areas where accurate population data was available.
Even though moose are diurnal, meaning active during the day and sleeping at night, it is sometimes difficult to obtain exacting population data. Moose are also the least social of the North American deer species. Bulls spend most of their year in solitude, and cows with only that year's offspring. They also favor habitats with the least observability, adding to the difficulty in population surveys. Therefore, how many moose should be taken from a given area needs to be evaluated every year.
Today, it is not uncommon to see big yellow signs with the black silhouette of a moose on them, alerting drivers to slow down and keep their eyes peeled for large dark forms on stilts, staring down passing vehicles. Recovery aside, their population today is sufficient to support only a strictly regulated annual harvest.
Optical Insights presented by Loophole, America's Optics Authority.
A good binocular is an invaluable tool in every hunter's arsenal, but you won't be seeing the full potential unless it's been matched to your eyes. Hi, I'm Tim Lesser. Even the best binocular can create eye strain and headaches if not properly adjusted. Most binoculars are now using a center focus system, meaning you use a wheel in the center of the binocular to change the focus setting. The diopter adjustment, typically located on the back of the right barrel or as a part of the focus wheel, accommodates for the slight differences in visual acuity between your left and right eye. To properly adjust most binoculars, cover the right objective, keep both eyes open, and use the focus wheel to focus the left barrel on a distant object. Then cover the left objective, keep both eyes open, and use the diopter adjustment to focus the right barrel on the same object. Both barrels have now been matched to your vision, and all focusing can be done with the center focus wheel.
Optical Insights has been brought to you by Leupold, America's Optics Authority. Boone and Crockett Country is in partnership with Buck Knives, knives that fit your life, and the Pope and Young Club, for the good of bow hunting.
Shiras moose seasons in the west coincide with the mid-September through early October rut. Claiming that hunting moose is like finding a needle in a haystack won't draw much but long looks from the uninitiated. But this analogy can be exactly the case without the use of calling to mimic the natural behavior of bulls and cows.
Over the course of the next couple of days, we should see a fair amount of bulls and cows and calves. Right now the rut's going on, it just started, and we've heard a lot of grunting activity, and it seems like the bulls are kind of worked up. So
that's great. I'm excited about this. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while. This is a gorgeous place. Tell me, how will we be hunting these things?
Our strategy with hunting moose is typically to spot and stalk. I mean, right now the bulls are moving continually looking for cows. The other thing though is this time of year they give themselves away. They grunt, and we can drop into canyons when we've got good wind conditions and we can hear them. And a lot of times we can call those bulls right to us.
Really?
Yeah,
that's great.
We're in a good spot here. I think what we'll do is we're just going to walk down here. We've got some water just around the corner. We'll go down here out of this wind a little bit and see if we can start doing some calling and see if we can just get a reaction. It's a good time of the day right now. Okay. Conditions seem to be pretty good, and let's give it a go.
All right, sounds good. Let's
okay.
Go.
On this hunt, Fouts quickly located a lone bull patrolling the shadows at the bottom of a draw. Better yet, this bull was responsive to Fouts' cow calls. But being the first morning of the hunt, and with Fouts knowing there were larger bulls on the ranch, this bull was left to continue his search for a real cow, and hopefully to fulfill his role as a breeding male.
It's always nice to see animals like that and let them go as well. So
you know, since we passed on that one and he's right by the road, that the one that we shoot's going to be in the very bottom.
You're absolutely right.
However, as the old saying goes, never pass up a buck or a bull on the first day you would be happy with on the last day. Carter and Fouts spent the next 3 days glassing open sage breaks in the morning and evenings and trying to peer into the dark timber during the midday. Their tally, only immature bulls, cows and calves, plus the usual sightings of mule deer and elk. On the fourth day of this 5-day campaign, they were joined by guide Glenn Hollows as another set of eyes and maybe a lucky charm. By mid-morning, a bull worth closer observation was spotted on a distant ridge.
Yeah, he's got a good front on him.
he's down.
Oh, yeah, good job.
All right.
Good job. Yeah, he's down.
That's great.
It's a nice bull. Yeah, look at that.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got 3 on that side. Yeah, he's an old bull.
Wow. That
Amazing
is
how
cool.
big they are.
It is.
Get up to them.
It is.
You know, this program we've got in Utah, it's called a Cooperative Wildlife Management Unit, and we're part of that program that in conjunction with the Division of Wildlife, and it allows us to manage with the livestock community, and you know, this is a working cattle ranch that 2 families own, and that's their primary source of income, but this type of program helps supplement that, and we're able to manage for livestock and for big game, both deer, elk, and moose. So
we've just seen tons of game since we got here, and
Yeah.
I've been here, this is the 4th day?
4th day.
Fourth
yeah.
day. We've seen mule deer, 4x4s every day. We've seen moose every day. Seen elk every day. It's unbelievable. It's a real game haven.
Well, and that's part of our management strategy. We have a liberal season, kind of a long season. Nice thing is you can hunt animals like this during the rut and really look them over, but we are limited on how many animals we can harvest off the property. But and the other good thing is that percentage of our tags actually go to the public.
Yeah,
And so it allows the public to come into a place like this and have an opportunity to hunt private land. So.
Well, I was going to say, this also shows what management on private land can do.
Yes.
You know, being from Texas, that we've been doing it a long time, but I'm glad it's spreading to the western states, because management on private land is really an important thing. A lot of people don't realize the value that it has.
Yeah. Well, it gives tremendous opportunity when you can manage properly. So, congratulations again.
Thank you. That's
Great bull. Yep.
Now we got to skin this bad boy, huh?
Yeah.
Cut him up.
Real work begins now.
Yeah.
Boone and Crockett Country has been brought to you by Leupold, America's Optics Authority, and the Boone and Crockett Club, fair chase and conservation since 1887.
The West is changing. The vast, continuous ranches of hundreds of thousands of acres of prime wildlife and beef habitat that the West is known for are now themselves under threat of extinction. It's a gradual extinction, but one that is taking place in every Western state. Land is valuable, and profits from ranching, farming, and timber production that once held these ranches together under one family name and brand are not what they once were. As a result, ranches are becoming ranchettes, sold in small chunks to pay taxes and offset operating losses. That's bad news for multi-generation ranching families, and good news for land developers. The bad news for sportsmen and wildlife is, as large sections under single ownership get carved up into smaller, multiple ownerships, wildlife and sportsmen both get caught in the crossfire. As Fred King explains, it's an alarming issue.
What used to be a land ethic of a single ownership is now an ethic of many overseeing the same land. The tradition of the Western rancher has always been a respect and understanding of the land, one that includes accommodating wildlife and regulated hunting. Multiple ownership of prime habitat, especially critical wintering habitat at lower elevations, means conflicting views of land use. Getting more people to cooperate on the same page is a modern problem for wildlife managers.
To counter this habitat fragmentation, programs like Utah's Cooperative Wildlife Management Unit program have emerged. By offering transferable big game permits to participating landowners, the added revenue from hunting gives landowners an economic incentive to keep their private range, forest lands, and wildlife habitat intact instead of having to sell off parcels to developers. Landowners enrolled in the CWMU program receive both permits to sell and some placed into the annual public draw. How many total permits is based on the annual surplus of bulls and cows. It's a win-win-win. Landowners who want to keep the family ranch intact can. Wildlife as a managed resource is given the attention it deserves, and sportsmen get the opportunity to hunt private lands and are welcomed. For the Shiras moose and other big game species and their habitats, what is needed now are more programs like this in other states.
Closed captioning provided by the Dallas Safari Club, promoting conservation and ethical hunting worldwide.